A 3-0 defeat to Fulham last night. Final straw for Aston Villa and their owners. Martin, I mean, look, this pressure's been building on Steven Gerrard for some while now, hasn't it? I mean, why has it gone so badly for him?
Well, I mean, obviously you've got to win games of football. I've been watching from afar, we really hoping that Steven Gerrard would take this opportunity. I thought it was a fantastic opportunity for him. Was it 2 wins in 11 matches? Not scoring enough goals. I think a win percentage of 33%. You've got to win games, Sam. And when he was persisting with playing with 2 strikers up top and Coutinho off the front, I'm kind of trying to think across Europe, who's playing in that fashion? Who's playing, how do you go and press with 2? There always seems to be like an overworkload in the wide positions for McGinn and Ramsey. They were so reliant on their fullbacks to get the width, to get forward. Both been injured recently.
So you think he was undone because he was tactically naive?
I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but because obviously there's a whole host of things, isn't there, that you have to consider, in terms of management, in terms of who's the captain, and a whole host of decisions. And he's been unlucky with Carlos has come in and got injured, and straight away a major issue with a top signing. So, but I felt there was an issue with when he's trying to play Buendia, Coutinho, trying to sort of shoehorn them into the side because he sees the quality that they have. But you weren't in possession long enough to be able to dominate games, to use that quality. Often they were just like on the receiving end. And I think it was tough for McGinn and Ramsey in that system. Really difficult. Often on the sides they're being outnumbered. So yeah, I think tactically it was a problem.
Changed the team far too often, didn't he? I mean, listen, it's going to pain me to hear this, but Alex Crook is just about to sit there smugly and say, I told you so. This was always going to happen. Why were you so sure?
But why would he do that? Why would he? Because don't we want someone of Steven Gerrard's footballing quality to go on and? I mean, surely you would have wanted him to go and do well, wouldn't you? I mean, I look at it and see these former players. I think they've got a hell of a lot to offer, and it's just that everything seemed to go wrong for Steven Gerrard.
Let's ask you, why did you enjoy Steven Gerrard's downfall so much?
I'm not saying I enjoyed it. I did predict it, so I could say I told you so, but I won't stoop to that level.
Didn't you tweet a clip out of you saying so earlier on?
I think it was a good appointment at the time. I can understand the appointment. I think he'd done well at Rangers. I don't think he'd done as well, perhaps, as people think, because he only managed 1 trophy in 3 years at a juggernaut of a football club in Scotland. Let's face it, it's a 2-team league, so it isn't difficult to get your hands on silverware. But I understood the appointment. There is
hadn't Celtic nearly run 10 in a row beforehand?
Yeah, exactly. So there was credit in the bank for that. There has become a trend now of clubs thinking outside the box, looking for up-and-coming British managers. Chelsea have done it with Graham Potter. I think that is to be applauded. But very early on in his tenure, and I had no desire to see Gerrard fail. I just didn't understand it. You felt that even when Aston Villa were losing games at the start of his reign, they were playing well. They were playing with an identity. I never saw that identity. If you speak to Villa fans now, and the best gauge of any manager is by speaking to people who watch the team week in, week out, they don't know what he was trying to do with that team.
My thing about it is at the beginning of the reign, especially in the early stages, I'm talking January time now, I saw them perform really well in games against Manchester United, other big teams. They played really well in those matches. In fact, they should have beat Manchester United in the FA Cup third round game, which we did live on talkSPORT. They were much the better side in that match. They were very good, actually, against Chelsea last Sunday in the first 45 minutes. It was only the fact that Kepa Arrizabalaga was so good that they didn't score in that match. But since then, they went on the drift. They went on the drift when they realised they couldn't get into Europe and they couldn't go down. And they drifted in terms as a team after that became apparent to them. I think they took their foot off the gas, and it certainly felt like that towards the end of last season. That has come into this campaign as well. Now, from the outside, the evidence for this is not just the Tyrone Mings, John McGinn captaincy thing, but that was a key moment. It looks as if his management style is a little bit more confrontational, old school, than maybe some of the newer school coaches, which are the most successful in our league at this moment in time. Do you think that was part of his undoing?
Well, I think when you put your neck on the block, when you change the captain, it's got to work, hasn't it? And that there comes a little bit of extra pressure. And I think Tyrone Mings he'll be hurting that the manager's gone, but he might be thinking when the new one comes in, maybe I might get the captaincy back. So that didn't quite help the situation, particularly when Carlos got injured and he was having to ask Mings then to come back. So that was almost Gerrard's worst nightmare. That can happen, but He proved that he wanted to make decisions. He wanted to make big decisions. But then ultimately, then you pay the price, don't you? So if things don't work...
What was the tone of his language around that, though?
He lit the fuse.
Aggressive.
I was at Bournemouth on the opening day of the season. Tyrone Mings had already been stripped of the captaincy by then. I think it happened when we were last filling in for Jim and Simon. And actually, Tyrone Mings put out a tweet suggesting that he was okay with the idea. Nothing to see here. I remember Steven Gerrard, after they'd been beaten at Bournemouth on the opening day, they were dreadful, by the way. They could have fired in them, Villa. They were so poor. He said, unprompted, Tyrone Mings will be back in the team when he looks me in the eye and tells me he wants to be back in the team. Nobody asked him that question. He didn't need to relight that fuse. I don't think it went down well in the dressing room. And let's look at Steven Gerrard as a training ground coach as well. How many players improved under Steven Gerrard? Alternatively, how many players went backwards? The goalkeeper's gone backwards. Mings has gone backwards. John McGinn at club level has gone backwards.
But he didn't
Ollie
do the
Watkins
coaching, did
has
he?
gone backwards.
One of the big things about Steven Gerrard is he's almost like the overlord. He's the manager rather than the head coach. The head coach is someone like Mick Bill, who we had there alongside him at Rangers.
That was the problem.
And for a long time at Aston Villa. And then he's brought in Neil Critchley, who's left Blackpool as the head coach and the manager and has come in as his assistant, clearly to do a lot more of the coaching and take the coaching burden off Steven Gerrard.
But he lost there was a momentum, and it was very exciting when Coutinho came in and Lucadinha came in all at once last January.
2 vanity signings.
Well, Lucadinha, I mean, he's a player that troubles me because I don't think when you're in the trenches you can really rely on someone like that. And I'm just thinking, how many managers has he now gone through? When he was at Everton, Benitez, he kind of lost Benitez his job there. You could say he's arrived at Villa, but it looked like an exciting signing when you think back to him playing earlier in his Everton career, raining crosses into the box. That just didn't happen. It didn't happen, and I do feel, tactically, I think there was an issue, and I think when Buendia was already there, was acquired by the previous manager. You can look at what he spent, maybe not that much money that he spent, because I think Dean Smith spent quite a lot of money before he arrived at the football club. I'd like to see him come back. I hope he's not going to be frightened off by this. I think when you go to Villa, I played there as a player, went there in '85. 5 years after they won the Champions League. It's a tough audience. It's a when you go and play in front of those fans.
It's a tough audience if you're playing the way Aston Villa.
Yeah, but I think as a fan that I've played with, brilliant when they're the away fans, when things are going well, but when it doesn't go well, probably the worst I've experienced in terms of like barracking, and it's tough.
So usually the fans are responsible for some of the
No, I'm not
pressure
saying
on
that.
Steven
You
Gerrard.
want to sensationalise. I thought we had a day off from Jim today. What I'm saying is it does not help. It all goes into the mix. You go out there to play in front of people that you've got to give the fans something to sing about.
It is interesting you say that, though, because
It's
John
a
McGinn
two-way.
came out last night, and he's the captain of the football club. He said it doesn't matter who's in charge of the team. It's nothing to do with the manager. The players have to look at themselves in the mirror. We've definitely not lost faith in the manager. It's us who are responsible. He's the top manager. And he went on to say, I understand the fans' frustration. There can be a nasty side to those shouts. The support are very demanding, so I can understand the frustration. You're playing at the top level, and if you're not performing, you get criticised. Was that John McGinn saying what you're saying, that the Villa fans
40 years
are
later
a tough audience?
They are. And I think actually look, we were relegated, so I hold that for the rest of my life. I gave the Villa, helped to give them back where I found them, back in the top level, and I was determined to do that, and a lot of people left. But I can tell you it was a difficult experience to go through, because you suddenly felt totally inadequate. You felt that the previous players that played in front of you must have been world beaters, because everything you do isn't really satisfied. They're not satisfied with it. So it's tough, but that goes with the territory. You can't blame the fans in all of this. You've got to give them something to cheer about, haven't you?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you want them to because if they keep going against the team, Villa could go down again. And that would be a disaster.
Why did it unravel so quickly for Steven Gerrard? Are the Villa fans really a tough audience? 03717 223344 is the number to call. And if you want to tell us who you think should be the new Aston Villa manager, or maybe you're a Liverpool fan upset about the way that Steven Gerrard has been treated, 03717 223344. We'll take your text, 81089. You can tweet us at talkSPORT. Sam Matterface, Alex Crook and Martin Keown.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.